Welcome, welcome. Today, this is an Elie Tahari top. Doesn't belong to me. This is a great story. I was at a luncheon and a friend of mine had this on, and I said, "Okay, I love this top. Who is it? Da da da." I just loved it. I just loved it. So we actually had a conversation. I'm going to show you how to duplicate this top. It was several $100s. I think it was almost $300. Anyway, we had a conversation at the table about what she liked about it or what she would change about it. She's not a sewer. She just knows what I do. So I asked her if I could borrow her top, and she said I could. So this is just on loan, but I'm going to walk you through and show you what she would change on it. So I'm going to go the top that I'm going to use as a base is pattern number 650, which is our wrap. But what she didn't like about it is that the lighter part was down here. She didn't like that. She felt like everybody was looking at her belly. She loved the sleeves, so we're going to duplicate the sleeves exactly. And she didn't like that the ties are the same length. So even though the buttonhole is going through the side seam, so I'll show you how to do that, but the buttonhole is on the side seam, and it's on the right hand side, so that means the tie is on the left hand front. It goes through, it comes around the back, as you can see, and ties. It ties on the left hand side, but both of the ties are the same length. And so I'm going to fix that. We're going to fix the fabric. And she felt like it was a little low. We're going to fix that also. So all of those great things you can do when you sew, let's get started. Okay, so here we are. I've cut off 2 yards of fabric. I'm using a silk. This is just a beautiful silk. This is on our website, Silhouette Patterns. The reason I always use fabric that you can get is because there was a time when I used fabric and you all couldn't get it and everybody got mad at me. So I always now use a fabric that you can get it if you want it. You obviously know doesn't make a difference. You've got plenty in your stash, as I've learned. And then I'm choosing the pattern that's closest to the top itself. So for me, that's pattern number 650. It's called the No Gap Wrap. If you had the wrap dress, you could use that as well. It wouldn't make a difference, but this is a blouse pattern and I'm using the wrap. So I want to go over the pattern changes first so that as we go through, you can understand them. I've got a front, a side front, a back, and a side back. My side back is on the fold, and I'm not going to change that at all. I'm sorry, the center back's on a fold. I'm not going to change that. My side back, not going to change that. My side front, not going to change that. So I'm just kind of lining these up, bam, 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 bam. This one, though, is my blouse front. And because this pattern has a collar on it, and I don't want a collar, I'm going to turn back this front piece. Now, on the top I have on, it has actually a front facing. It's like about 2 inches wide. I don't like that. I don't even want that. I'm going to double my front, and that way you can finish the front off, and then when you go to sew it into the side seam, the front will be all finished off. And then I'm going to double my back as well. So my front and my back will be double, and it just gives, I think on a wrap, it just gives it a little more resilience, or a little, just a little more oomph. So what I am going to do, though, remember I said that I didn't like it as low as it was. I'm going to turn this back, and when you do that, you have a couple French curve options. So if you put your French curve where it's concave to the inside or toward the side seam, then you're going to take away more neckline. But if you put it toward this way, and I pick up the shoulder seam here, and then the front seam there, you can see that as it covers more, and I'll show you this after it's actually made, the more it covers of the neckline, the higher the neckline will actually cross. So the numbers I'm using, this is our curvette. I'm going from 19 at the neckline to 9 into center front, and that's how I'm going to actually cut the front. I'm going to leave an opening at the side seam. Well, that's not the side seam. At the side seam, for the tie to go through. Let's talk about the ties themselves. I'm going to use the same pattern, but I'm going to put them on the selvage. And that way I only have to worry about one edge being finished. I can actually tuck it under as I sew it, and again, I'll show you as I sew it. So I'm going to cut them twice as wide, but I'm going to use the selvage. I've got beautiful selvage. I'm not doing anything with it. I might as well use it on the edge of the wrap. That will save me a little bit of time to finishing that. And then on the sleeve itself, what I'm going to do is, you can see on the sleeve that it's cut, and you can't you don't know the numbers, but I'm going to tell you, it's cut 4 inches wider than the actual sleeve itself. So I've made the sleeve shorter, I've made it the length I've wanted, and on this particular case, on the pattern, I made it 9 inches shorter than the sleeve. So I just tucked that up behind it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this off. So as I cut the actual armhole itself, I'm going to go 4 inches out farther this way and 4 inches out farther this way. That's what's going to make the little billow here. And I'm going to take that, then if I measure 4 inches out this way and 4 inches out this way, I see that my sleeve is 24 inches across this way, and I'm going to cut a rectangle. So that's the length. Once I leave here, I'm going to cut across and then back up. So that sleeve is going to be one large rectangle is what it's going to be on the lower. When I'm actually sewing it, I'm going to tell you and then I'm going to show you. I'll actually seam the edge down here. I'll make an entire circle and seam it here. And then to this point, I'll put a little clip and I'll actually hem it to this point so that at that point you can see there'll still be this hem, but that will go into the armhole. And even if I leave a little gap, it just won't make a difference. When I actually look at the real thing, there is actually a little tiny gap under there. So it doesn't have to exactly be perfect. Even if I just stitched it or hemmed it to right there and left a little hole, you could still have a little hole under there and it wouldn't make a big difference at all. I just want you to understand that there's going to be a seam along here, and then I'll turn this under or finish it or do a raw hem. On this particular one, it's done with a rolled edge. I'm not going to do a rolled edge. Simply because a hem will give it a little more weight. So I'm actually just going to give it a hem. But you know, I'm showing you all these options so you can choose whatever you want. So that's that change. I'm going to do the neckline change and I'm going to do the wrap. The wrap is 1 yard long, but the second wrap is only a ½ yard long. Because if you notice on this wrap here, I've got all this tie hanging down, and she didn't like that. She's not a sewer, she didn't know what to do with it, but I measure how much that is and it's about a ½ yard. So one of my ties is going to be 1 yard long and one is going to be a ½ yard long. And again, you can adjust those to your sizing and what you want it to be. And you could cut them both 1 yard long or both the length you want them to be, and then just cut one off. The big advantages of sewing is we can kind of change them as we go. All right, so if you're ready, I'm going to start getting all this cut out. And I'm so excited about my new top. So when I'm sewing the sleeves, I'm going to sew them together. I folded them in half. Well, first I'm gonna hem them. So I'm gonna start with just serging the bottom. So I've just serged the bottom just as normal. Then I'm going to do the bottom of the sleeve. And then I'm going to go ahead and serge the whole armhole edge. So this is all the armhole edge, and I'm going to go ahead and serge all of that. Because I've clipped little notches. Up to those notches, I'm actually going to sew the sleeve together. And then this is the portion I'm going to sew into the armhole. But this portion right there where I've clipped, that's going to be sewn together. So I wanted to just have a serged finish to it. I'm actually going to sew it together on the sewing machine. I don't want to lose my clip, so I'm just going to deepen that clip a little bit more. Okay, so what I did is I just serged the bottom of the sleeve. That's the part that's going to hang down. This is the portion that's actually going to go into the sleeve itself. And this can be sewn together. So you can see that where it splits is this is going to be sewn to the blouse and this is what's going to be sewn together. And I'm going to actually do that on the machine. I'm just going to sew that little portion together, and that's what will make the sleeve. Kind of be that little butterfly type sleeve. Okay, that will go in there. It will be sewn to that point, and the rest will hang free. It's going to be beautiful. It's really, really pretty. Okay, so everything else is just sewn exactly as your directions. So I'm just going to keep on and sew the whole entire thing. And then I'll show you when we're done. And I'm really excited. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting pins, that is the front and the right side. So the front versus the side panel, just because it's a little easy to get it confused. This front and the right sides. And I have 2 layers for the front and 2 layers for the back. But again, I'm making it just like the pattern. So from here, everything going direction-wise is exactly like the pattern. So if you just follow the pattern, you'll do exactly perfect. All the sewing is done. Here I am. I love it. I love my new top. I love it because it covers more in my neckline. It's the color that I want. It fits my shoulders so much better. The ties are the right length. All the changes I wanted, just like I wanted. I love it. So you can do so many different necklines. Just put your French curve down on a neckline you like and duplicate that. As far as sleeve length and where you want it, same thing. Fabric, you can do knits, wovens. This is a silk and it feels so comfortable. I feel like I've got my pajamas on. It just feels really, really nice. And again, there's just so many variables and fabrics and everything you want to do. So from Silhouette Patterns, happy sewing.